Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Spirit School. I'm happy to bring you another segment where I am inviting you to get to know one of our collective members. And today we are bringing you Lindsay Ray. How are you doing today, Lindsay?
I'm great, thank you. How are you?
Good. I'm doing really good. It's Mercury retrograde. I'm definitely having one of those days, but I'm excited here, and this is going to record. We are going to manifest that. This
I
is going
heard
to
I
record.
heard the message that you're being recorded.
You're being recorded, and this whole thing's going to record, and it's going to be so amazing. So, yes, we are mid Mercury retrograde, but I'm doing amazing. And, you're someone who I wanted to bring on to the podcast for a lot of different reasons that will unfold as this conversation unfolds. But going back to where we started, I
Mhm.
know that you've taken the initiation. I know you've participated in many of the programs. I think you might have even done the initiation more than once, but you have been in the collective as well for the past like 2 years, I think 2.5 years now. So, I'm always curious because when people come into the community, I don't always get to find out, like, what was life like for you before? Where did you come from? What are you
Yeah.
working on? And so I'm just kind of curious about, your spiritual journey. Like, where did your spiritual journey start? What made you, find the collective? And like, what kind of things are you interested in now?
Mhm. Yeah. Well, yeah, I think it's actually been about 2 years because I remember it was August when I joined. And yeah, where did it begin? I think like one of the most things that led me kind of right to the collective was I actually started in Reiki, training in Reiki. So that was kind of my gateway to like the spiritual world. And to be totally honest, growing up, I was like a very skeptical and scientific person too. I still am actually. But I kind of, yeah, had a lot of revelations and experiences in training with Reiki, which led me to a mentor who's awesome. Her name's Annie Babchuk, and she does more like kind of psychic development.
Mhm.
And I was training with her, and I did one sort of practice reading with her. And then I realized quickly, like, oh, I need to find more people to, practice with. And I had been listening to your podcast, like so many people, and was just like very drawn to your energy. And then, yeah, seeing what you offered online. Like we actually don't live that far apart, but it's like, an online community of so many people. And yeah, I think I joined and then did the initiation kind of right away. And it was really funny because I joined the collective. I'm so excited. I joined up for a practice circle. I'm like, let's see what happens. Let's dive in. Let's do this. And then the night before, I was like, what am I doing? I don't know how to do mediumship. Like, I have no idea how to do like this, but it was really awesome. And I tried it out and I had a really great experience. And then, yeah, since then, I've just been very involved. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm kind of curious because mediumship was my gateway to
Yeah. Yeah.
everything. I've never
Mhm.
done any psychic training or energy healing training. So I'm kind of curious if you have a way of describing the different experiences you have between healing, psychic, and mediumship. Is there a difference or is it all
Mhm.
the same?
It's very similar to me. It feels very similar. I actually sometimes have a hard time discerning if I'm talking about people in a reading. Like, I'm not sure if they are still with us or past sometimes, but I'll say, like, for Reiki and connecting with people energetically that way, I usually see them or their body or their energy around their body. And when I'm doing psychic work, I'm kind of seeing that as well, like around them. And then when it's mediumship, it just visually looks to me like different. Like I see kind of behind them, maybe their guides or their people, and it just comes in visually for me in a different way. But it's very subtle, and I'm still working on discernment in that. But yeah, it just looks different to me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had a medium that I know. And again, this is how come every mediumship or even probably spiritual development journey is so different because the language of spirit speaks so differently to each of us. And
Mhm.
I had
Mhm.
a mediumship friend once describe, past events in black and white and current and future events in color. I've heard different mediums describe depending on where the information is coming through, it means something different. So it's very unique, like intimate experience and language, isn't it?
Mhm.
And that discernment can take a little while too, for sure. So one thing that I've loved getting from you that you have been offering me are like distance Reiki sessions when I'm going through
Mhm.
like major life transitions. And I always get this beautiful recording with channeled messages that always are inspirational and healing, and they're very beautiful. So, what about the difference between doing this type of work distance versus having
Mhm.
somebody there online versus like in person?
Yeah, you know what's so fascinating? When I first started Reiki, I was like, how could this possibly work? I don't get this. Like, this is crazy. This is like, and then it did. And I could see even like on animals kind of reacting, which is where I'm like, oh, this is, real. And then when it was like, oh, you can do it distance, I was like, no, like that's crazy. How could that work? And then, yeah, trying it out is like, it really does. So, yeah, I don't know. I feel like I do love in person when I'm able to do that, which isn't that often, but it's really beautiful. And I find that in person is more like physical healing. And then distance, I do like to connect people like in my sessions, usually, for if I don't know them, like kind of do 10-minute sort of like explain to them what I do. But you, I already know, so we don't need to do that every time. But yeah, just to kind of have a bit of a connection. And then I do the Reiki session and write down notes and then send an audio message. But I find that format works really well for me because I'm kind of a hermit as well. So I just feel like that's when I'm at my most like connected and peaceful is just kind of me and my office and my crystals and whatnot. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think that that's so important for anyone discovering their own abilities to know about themselves is like what
Mhm.
environment supports you the most in your
Mhm.
connection. And so I'm glad that you figured that out. And
Mhm.
Reiki is something that I'm not too familiar with. I know a lot of our students in the collective found mediumship through Reiki, but I also know you just
Mhm.
went to Japan, which
Mhm.
is the birthplace of Reiki. Did you have any
Yeah.
cool experiences there or informative experiences?
Yeah. Oh, I had so many amazing experiences there. Yeah. But yeah, me and my husband got to hike up Mount Kurama, which is basically so Reiki is energy healing, but it's kind of a formal or somewhat formal technique by Usui Sensei. So he basically started Reiki. And I'm probably going to mess up the story, but basically he was meditating on this mountain with all these beautiful Buddhist shrines and temples. He was meditating for 21 days, and on the way down, he hurt his ankle. And he had, in this 21 days, he had kind of just been gifted like the idea of Reiki or just some sort of energetic like download of that. And then he hurt his ankle and was like, oh, and put his hands on it. And it basically healed. And then he walked down the mountain. So that's kind of like the origin story of like the beginning of Reiki.
Yeah.
And it's very fascinating because there's a huge story about how it came to the West, how it came to North America. And I had learned it in a way where you kind of go through the chakras, and it seems like in the West, it's been tried to be legitimized and kind of like fit into like a Western medicine type format sometimes or somewhat. But in on this trip to Japan, I was doing a bit more research about like the deeper origins of it, and I realized that he had been in all these psychic development groups and like metaphysical groups. And I was like, I knew it. I knew it because, yeah, when I send Reiki, that is when I get the messages and it feels all very intuitive and it feels all very connected. So it was, yeah, it was an amazing experience to hike up that mountain and then also, yeah, kind of feel a bit more like, not like I kind of felt more like I was going rogue from Reiki, but I realize I'm just kind of doing it intuitively and that's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I love that.
Mhm.
Now, something that you said earlier that I want to get on to because it's something a lot of people experience when they come into the spiritual space, especially in the collective. Like we have university professors there, we have like,
Mhm.
PhD students, we have a lot of academic people there, as well as, have like 9 to 5s and like all the different reasons why spirituality might be harder for them to kind of like grasp and hold. So you talk about this like skeptical scientific mind.
Mhm.
What were some of the experiences that you had that like, softened that a little bit for you? Or does
Mhm.
it still exist? Are you still kind of balancing between the 2?
Yeah, it still exists, but I know like I've had enough experiences now where I'm like, okay, you know. The first with Reiki was I used to have a blind cat, and my sister-in-law, Sherry, is the reason I started training in Reiki. She does Reiki. And when she was sending Reiki to my cat, he like jumped up on a table and walked over to her in a way that he would never do because since he was blind, he had like really particular behaviors,
Mhm.
and he like I could see him physically reacting to it. And I was like, whoa, like there, yeah, I don't know. It was like very compelling. And then I would say, like, in terms of kind of more doing readings and whatnot, when I first joined the collective, I was paired up. I think my very first partner pairing was Charla,
Eh.
which was amazing. And it was a really great experience in reading. And I did basically a psychic reading for her where I talked about a few different pieces of evidence that were really spot on and compelling. And they were so specific that I was like, you can't make it up. And my mind, I think, was just like breaking in some way because I was like, everything I know is not the same as it was before. And I remember going to get a haircut after, and I was like looking down at my hands and being like, is this reality? Like what? Like it was my mind really had to kind of like get comfortable with the idea that like, other things are possible. And I think for everyone, maybe not everyone, but it kind of takes a little bit of time for like your nervous system to catch up and to these experiences. But most people who I've met there in the collective, it's like we know we're there for a reason and we keep, kind of pursuing the spiritual path because there are all these amazing experiences. Yeah, I've had many more since then, but those are kind of the first two that I remember where it was like really compelling to me, who is a very skeptical scientific person. Yeah.
Yeah, well, and I wonder too, like one of the hardest parts of development, like one of the things that will take, I think, people the longest is like getting out of your own way, right? So that you
Yes. Yeah.
can be a channel.
Hmm.
So I wonder how having that kind of like scientific mind, like does it impede you at all? Do you feel? Do you have to take like extra care to become that channel? Like what is like your process to lean into faith or
Yeah.
trust, if you will, instead of the practical side of it all? Or does the practical side support you?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that the practical side in a way supports me because there have been a few of these experiences that are so compelling that, I can't discount them. So it's almost like, here's the evidence for you, you know? But I will say just generally, yeah, like getting into the mindset or what I have been working on, what I'm always working on is exactly getting out of my own way. And I think what it took for me was this is why I really enjoy the practice pairings. So we get paired up in the collective and we can just practice and it feels very low pressure, but basically showing up, and it's almost just an ego thing where you're like, I could just sit here feeling foolish and nothing happens. And then it's like, but did you die? No. That's
Exactly.
what you
But
always
did you
say.
die?
Did you die?
And then
No,
you
but
get to
it's
meet someone, right?
yeah. Yeah. So it's like it's almost just like letting go of the ego to the point of like this could completely fail, but so what? It's worth it to just keep trying. And honestly, like I've had almost no experience myself or of seeing other people where it's a complete like nothing. It's
Yeah.
usually some learning experience or yeah, so I don't know. Yeah, I think the skeptical side, yes, is very hard to kind of like, drop that defense, but in a way it also has helped me because when someone does a reading for me and it's just so magical, it's like I can't deny all these really specific things they're saying. So, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that because I feel like in my experience with this, that's what's taken me the longest is like
Mm.
trusting myself. I seem to have had an unwavering faith in a spirit world. I've been watching mediumship since I was 14, but I think my own disbelief was like, I could do this. Like
Mm.
it was
Mhm.
always like the chosen one or
Yeah.
you're
Yes.
born with it. I remember Sylvia Brown used to say in her books, like those that are psychic are born with like a caul over their face.
Mm.
And I remember like asking my mom, I'm like, was there a caul on my face? She's like, girl, you were almost born in a toilet. She's like, I thought I had to go to the bathroom and you came out. So it's like, I was like, no, I'm not a chosen one. But that's what I thought it used to be like, right?
Yeah.
So leaving the spirituality path, I guess, well, actually, before I leave it, because I wanted to bring you on to talk about a couple earthly things, because you helped me so
Mhm.
much with so much of my earthly things. But,
Mm.
you know, where do you feel like you want to go with all the things that you have collected? Do you have any clarity on that, or do you think you're there? Like, I'm doing, I'm living it.
Oh, for
Like,
spiritual stuff?
yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm getting there. Recently, it's kind of interesting. Like I started in Reiki and then I've kind of been going down the path doing all these different things. And I do feel like I'm returning to Reiki a little bit or energy healing kind of as a gateway to all these other things. So I do really enjoy doing the distance Reiki sessions for people and actually animals too. That has been some of the most rewarding. Yeah, animal communication and animal
Mm.
healing sessions. So you know what? I feel like it's always a journey and never a destination. That's like how I have to get up every day. And but then it's fun every day because yeah, so I probably will yeah, change where I'm going, but right now I'm really enjoying that.
Yeah, it's something I'm interested in learning a lot more about, but there's
Mhm.
such a need for it.
Yes.
I've done so many mediumship readings now, but you bring up a pet and like that's it.
Mhm.
That's what people want to hear from. And
Mhm.
even just being able to like communicate and heal with their beloved living pets and stuff like that. So I know I've seen firsthand being out here in the wild that there's a deep, deep need for that. So I'm glad that I
Mhm.
have someone like you doing that in the collective because we just need so much of it. Yeah, one thing I wanted to bring you on for, and I know that you could probably help out the spirit school audience with some of this is,
Mhm.
for anyone listening, if you've watched my newsletter or checked out my website, that's all Lindsay's magic. And she's incredible. And I felt very lucky to find you because in the collective for a while, there were so many of our light workers that were going professional and they were asking all these questions like, what website platform do you use? And like, do you guys set up a newsletter? So we created a classifieds page at the time so that people could kind of hire each other and help each other out where they could. And that's where I found you was in the classifieds there. And you were like, oh, I do SEO, I do website, I do this. And I'm like, I think I need your help, Linz. It was actually YouTube, I think, how we first connected
Oh,
because you
yeah.
said you did YouTube video editing. Do you remember way back? So like
Yeah.
almost like 2 years ago now, you started helping me out a little bit in my business, and that's grown and grown. And I hope it continues to grow and grow. But
Mhm.
you really do manage like a lot of my marketing and a lot of the things that make like me visible. And I know that you do such a good job of that, like the SEO stuff that you've done on my website. And I'll just share this recent experience that blows me away because this is not my world. For you, you're like, this is how it works. But I want to give you an example. You guys might remember Julie Poole on my podcast a while ago. She's a good friend of mine. We've been good friends for 2 years. And just something happened to her where she just went like number one. Like she had a number one best-selling book. She got all this exposure. Huge publications in the UK were doing unapproved, but who can complain? Articles on her that she had to spend half of her life correcting half of them because they wrote them without her permission. But it was just like the season of exposure. And because of the work that you did on my website and like the SEO work and the formalizing, like how we run our website, my website was ranking above her website when people were like searching for her. I was telling
Mhm.
her and I was laughing. And now she's on an SEO hunt because I was like, almost all my traffic this month came to my website because they were looking for you.
Yeah.
So, and I know that that's like the work that you do. And I know that, I would love for you to like maybe even speak a little bit about that, but I'm really curious about the visibility piece because you do help people with their visibility and with amplifying their online presence. But I know you're not someone who craves that visibility or that exposure. And I
Yeah.
have to say that it's more common in the lightworking and healers art space that people aren't craving that visibility. But isn't it kind of a necessity in the year 2024? Talk to me about this.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Definitely, I feel like online marketing is like very overwhelming and could be a full-time job for anyone. Like if you're an entrepreneur or if you're doing readings, it's like you could have a completely other career doing that part of it. So yeah, I think that it's definitely good to have an online presence of some kind, however that is comfortable for you. For me, I just have a website for my readings and I don't do social media for it. I have my other Instagram and whatnot, but basically, I think like, well, hold on. There's too many things going on. I'm like, where am I going to start here?
I know. I just threw
Yeah.
10 questions at you at once too. So you go.
No, I think that having somewhere for people to find you online, even if it's just one place, is important because if you're just starting out and let's say you're doing readings or you're connecting with people, even if they're practice readings, people might remember you and they just want a way to reach out or refer people to you. So one of the things I have said to people is that you don't need to have like a full website and all social media and YouTube. Like, I don't know. I think a lot of people see like, I know you've been doing this for many years and you have like the YouTube and the Instagram and the website and like the newsletter and like everything is working together and it's great. And I think like, I don't know, you tell me, but you didn't start that way. You probably started, with one thing at a time, almost like got a website and having somewhere to find you, somewhere to book you. I think like that's kind of the minimum. And then you've said this before, like kind of spending your time where you like to be. So if you want to lean hard into Instagram because that's where you love to be, that could be your marketing channel to start. And then yeah, it can grow from there. But I've definitely worked with people. I love working with kind of one-on-one with entrepreneurs who are just kind of at that point where they're like, okay, like I'm doing readings, where do I go from here? So yeah, I mean, I will say like it is a huge topic and really there's a lot of nuance in it, but we chat about it in the collective sometimes, or like sometimes there's questions, or people are like, what newsletter, email provider should I use? And I'm always like, oh, I'm like, oh, this is my area. And so it's been fun in that way, kind of like connecting with people. And I'm very happy to do that too. Yeah, because I actually like I'm focusing on other work things, so I can't really take on any more clients. But in the collective, the people there, like I'm very happy to help out or just kind of offer suggestions when people ask. But that kind of started when started that classified space that we used to have. And now we all just kind of chat about those sorts of things. But it is very supportive. And I'm happy to offer kind of like my experience in that way.
Yeah, well, and this is by no way being like, everyone go reach out to Lindsay and she'll help you. Girl is booked and busy. Okay. She's booked and busy. And one thing that, I got to check into this integrity piece because when I reached out to you and I tried to recommend a lot of my very successful friends to you, you
Mhm.
actually said I only work with like one psychic medium because I got to make sure your SEO ranks, right? So it's
Mhm.
like, I really appreciated that. And I never thought about that as being like proprietary, like, what words we're using or
Right.
whatever you do.
Yeah. Yeah.
you know yeah, I really appreciated that like integrity piece as well. And so
Mhm.
that's a come I just love raving about you because not only like do you know what you're doing, but like you're very integral as well.
Mhm.
So then question for you, and I actually don't know this, but yeah, my first website, I threw up a website. I used WordPress. I mean, it was
Mhm.
2017, I think. So I used WordPress. Wix was out at the time, but I ended up buying like a template you just kind of like pop in, but
Mhm.
you know what? I couldn't figure that out. WordPress, I don't understand it at all. So I
Mhm.
ended up going to Squarespace with you, but I'm curious because there's so many things that are popular, like, becoming TikTok famous or
Mhm.
getting your Kajabi so that you can do your courses and your website, like these
Mhm.
all-in-one platforms. But
Mhm.
can you have SEO like on Meta? Like, can you have SEO through things like Kajabi, or even if somebody just put up like an Acuity page, like
Mhm.
does that work for SEO? And SEO, I should tell everyone, is search engine optimization. It just makes you like Googleable.
Mhm. Yes. SEO works with almost anything, but Kajabi definitely fine because they have sort of back-end things to make where you can customize that. Google Sites is basically a free website provider where you can't really customize it, so it just takes the text from your site. So
Yeah.
something like Google Sites or Acuity is just going to take at face value what is on your website. So if it's really specific what people are looking for and really specific what you have there, they're going to find you. But it would be very difficult to kind of rank for all these other topics that people might be searching for.
Yeah.
So I would say like pretty much any website provider, yeah, you can rank. Or even like if you Google yourself, don't know if you've done that, your Instagram
No.
comes up. So like yes, it finds you. You will like yeah, anything on Meta is will come up in kind of the search results, but it's sort of like a large and multifaceted kind of like, I don't know, genre or like sort of job to work in SEO. But
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
It helps. So, I mean, another win, if I can say, no, I don't Google myself. I actually just had one of my collective members. I was looking at their Instagram stories the other day and they were chat GPTing themselves. I'm like, I could never, like, I don't want to know.
Yeah.
And they did it for me and they sent me a video. They're like, you have nothing to worry about, girl. I was like, I was sweating. But here's another SEO win because again, these are the things that, yes, we're spiritual and you can, like, I had a very successful practice offline before I went online for many
Mhm.
years. I had a high in
Mhm.
demand practice that was word of mouth, referral, like boots on the ground, grassroots, very low tech, very
Mhm.
low overhead. There is nothing wrong with running a spiritual practice like that. But another win I wanted to say just on the SEO and why it is worth investing in like these little marketing investments, if you will, if you do plan on having an online business, because it's pretty noisy out there now. At the Sacred Spirit Retreat this past June, we had somebody reach out and she was actually coming to Squamish and she was Googling Squamish sacred sites
Mhm.
to visit while she was here. And what came up first was the Sacred Spirit Retreat by the Squamish medium.
Yeah.
And so she ended up getting in. She's like, I couldn't believe I got in. I'm like, I can't believe it either. I'm like, that's so exciting. But that was like, I have to tell Linz. I'm like, that's a
Mhm.
huge win for us. So, these little things can make it a little bit more passive because you're out there
Mhm.
like anyways, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
If we do have presences on these platforms, then, I'm sure that the searchability does work. But one thing that I teach in the calling in my business programs, and I'd be curious about your thoughts on this too, is, when we solely build on TikTok or YouTube or Instagram, it's like they're not our platforms. And
Mhm.
like we don't have a lot of sovereignty or agency over them. And we can lose them anytime. Like I messaged Andrea right before our interview. I was like, I think my Instagram's hacked. I haven't been able to get onto Instagram all day, but she can get onto my Instagram. I mean, it
Mhm.
just goes to show you how little control we have over some of this tech, right?
Yeah, I think where I would go with that is, yeah, a good reminder that it's like all these things can be helpful, but they're not it. They're not solely it. Like let's say you don't have an Instagram tomorrow, we would miss the memes, but we still know where to find you, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely.
So I
And
think,
that's
yeah, putting too much importance on one particular, kind of like marketing stream is like just a good reminder, I guess, to focus like on your craft or on your practice and kind of let it grow from there. But yeah, good to have somewhere where people can find you easily and then kind of spend your time, where you want to spend it, whether that's YouTube or Instagram or anything like that, or nowhere. Yeah, I know people who book like pen and paper,
yeah.
and it's like they're booked and busy. So
I
yeah.
know one of my well, she's an old friend, but we came up together and she's always been booked and busy. She's a phenomenal medium. And she did pen and paper in her journal. And then one day her car got broken into
Mm,
and they took everything. And
yeah.
she books like a year out. So she didn't know who paid, who didn't paid, who was booked, who wasn't. And so
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, please don't do pen and paper. And I used to use my notepad on my phone and I had two people show up at one time. And I
Mm,
was like, oh, is that you've gotten my open rate on my newsletters, even though the list has continued to grow with you from around like the 19 to 23% up to almost 40%. Like I seen it one time at like 35, 38. So that's incredible too. I know that doesn't mean a lot to other people out there, but when you have like a body of work, when you have something that you want to share out with people, like these are the ways that you do it in 2024. And so it's hard, I think, for people to harmonize or balance the marketing necessities with the spirituality. I know that even I sometimes really struggle between them and have had to do things like marketing Mondays or,
mhm.
back end Sundays and like
Yeah.
really balance the two. Do you ever struggle that because you're a practitioner, you're a healer, but you
Mhm.
also live and support people in that kind of like businessy 3D space?
Yeah. Yeah, I too, I love the creativity of it, not just the design elements, but just generally thinking like, oh, you know, what can we put in the newsletter that would be of value to people? What would be interesting? And just kind of like, to me, that's very creative to just thinking about, yeah, how like the visibility and kind of the information. And it's really funny. I never told you this before, but when I very first started or joined the collective, I was like, I want to work for Danielle. I told my husband that. I was like, that would be awesome. But thank you for the compliments, but honestly, it's because your work and your content is of such high quality that it doesn't feel like, sometimes marketing is like, oh, it feels a bit like uncomfortable or it can feel weird, like flashy and all this, but I don't feel like that when I work for you because I'm like, I know how valuable this is for people and I really care about it. And I think, yeah, like thankfully there have been these successes like with the email list but I think it is because it starts with your work and like that is the real reason. But yeah, I definitely find it easier to market other people, not myself.
I know.
But
Why are we like this,
yeah,
Linz? Do you
I don't
know? Do you have any
know.
secrets? Like,
I have, yeah, my website for Reiki, etc., is just a very simple Google sites. And I mean, it works for me.
one thing I've been asking the collective members who I'm interviewing with this, and it's something I think about a lot too. Like, if I could get a hold of day one Danielle, like
Mhm.
the Danielle
Mhm.
that enters that first practice circle, walked into that studio for the first time to tune into my spirituality, like what would you tell that version of yourself with what you
Mhm.
know now?
Yeah. What would okay. I think I think I said it a little bit earlier. I wish I'd saved it up for this question. But I would say, well, okay, I will add to it, but I will say that there is no destination in this work. It's always a journey. And I think I would tell myself, just remember to be humble because you're going to learn a lot of things. And I think that's what makes it fun and exciting too, is to approach the work with that kind of openness and curiosity and humility. And then I have found it to be very rewarding, kind of with that lens. And there's obviously amazing highlights along the way, but there's not, I don't have an end goal other than to just enjoy myself. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's
Mhm.
beautiful advice. And that's something I hope people will heed to as well. If you want to be findable, do you want to tell
Mhm.
people how to find you?
Yeah, I know. I'm like, don't find me. No, I would love, yeah, if anyone is interested. Well, okay, you can find me in the collective or in the community, the Spirit Soul Collective and community. I'm Lindsay Ray. And then for Reiki and readings, my website is lindsayray.ca.
Perfect. I love how that I can hear a jingle. I can hear
Yeah.
a jingle in my head.
.com was not available, and then I was like, you know what? I like that .ca.
LindsayRay.ca. I love it. I can hear like the jingle in my head. So, okay. Thank you, Lindsay, for coming on and,
Yes,
sharing
thank
some
you.
education in there as well. One thing I wanted to say earlier that you were mentioning is one thing I will be bringing into the collective. It might not be every single month, but we are going to be bringing in a business circle. So,
Mhm.
I'm definitely going to hit you up to come in and do a bit of like guest teaching or something
Yeah.
within one of those because, yeah, not only do we love this work, but we want to do this work and we want to thrive doing this work. So I think that
Mhm.
these are
Yeah.
all the important elements that can help us in that thrive. So thank
Mhm.
you for being open to talk about spirituality and
Yeah.
business today. Go check
Mhm.
out Lynn's. And yeah, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thank you so much.